We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Gimel Amud Beis in Meseches Kiddushin. This is Kiddushin Daf 73b. This daf is sponsored by Jacob Ginsburg. Thank you for your sponsorship. If you would like to sponsor an Amud or a daf, see the description box below. And please see the description box below to see how you can support this channel. The Gemara is now continuing a statement from Rava bar Rav Huna, or it might be Rabba bar Rav Huna. It says, let's say you find a child, and so that's generally called an asufi. It's a child, we don't know who the father is, we don't know who the mother is, and we say there's a prohibition for that child to enter into the community. However, if you find that that child is mohol, that child has a bris milah, ein bo mishum asufi, then it does not have the status of an asufi. And Rashi explains, ein bo mishum asufi, the ilav de kosheru, because if not for the fact that the child was kosher, lo have a tarcha bei lemimole, they wouldn't bother to give him a bris milah. The fact that they gave the child a bris milah shows that he is in fact kosher. And the Gemara continues along the same lines, mishalte hadame, ein bo mishum asufi. Rashi explains, mishalte hadame, varav misukanim umiyusharim, if his limbs were straightened out, so then also ein bo mishum asufi is not considered asufi, meaning to say he's not considered disqualified, the possible, because if he was disqualified, lo avim hisaknele, they wouldn't fix him up like this. Hoel v'daita lashlicho, since he's going to throw him aside anyway. Elamachmas ra'avon hushlach. Rather, you see from here that this is a situation where he was thrown aside because there's a famine, and again, you can assume that this particular child is kosher. And the Gemara continues also along the same lines. Shayif mishchif, there was oil put on him. Umalakuchler, let's say there was paint put around his eyes. Again, the same idea, he's considered to be kosher. And the Gemara continues also along the same lines. Ramei Chumrei, Rashi will explain what that is. Tale Piska, if there's a note that's hanging from him, or Tale Kamiya, or let's say there's an amulet hanging from him. In all of these cases, Ein Bo Mishum Asufi, doesn't have the status of an Asufi. And Rashi explains, Ramei Chumrei means ksharim sha'osm l'refuah. These were knots that they made for the purpose of healing. V'tolin latinok, they would hang them for the child. And tali piska kamiya shel ksav, you have like a written kind of amulet. And tali kamiya means shalikarin, if you have an amulet that's made of roots. Ein bo mishum asufi, in all of these cases, he's not considered in the status of asufi. Ta'chas al chaya, because clearly the mother was careful about his life. V'ochiach tchilasa sho'avaso v'lo hitshlichaso lamos. It's clear that she loved him, she didn't send him out to die, and therefore you see that he's a kosher. And the Gemara continues, Tali b'dikli, let's say the child is found hanging from a tree, imati lechaya, if a wild animal is able to reach him, so yesh ba mishum asufe. Asufe is considered to be asufe. Essentially, he was thrown out in a position of danger. But imla, but if not, if he's in an area that's protected, again, ein ba mishum asufe is not considered to be asufe. And the Gemara continues, zardata samicha lamas, if he's put by this tree, this is a type of tree, and it's near the city, that's considered a dangerous area. Yesh ba mishum asufi is considered to be asufi. V'imlav, and again, if not, ein ba mishum asufi is not considered to be asufi. And Rashi explains, first, tali bedikli mati lechayero. Again, if an animal is able to get to him, v'yachol letorfo, an animal can tear him up, misham, from that particular position in the tree. Yesh bo mishum asufi is considered asufi. Klolo shel davar, again, the general rule is, kol makom sheyesh lohavin de ladas misal shlichaso. If it's an area where it seems that he was thrown there to die, v'lo chasa, if she didn't have mercy on him, yesh bo mishum asufi. So then there's the status of asufi. And again, zardatas de smicha lamasa, this particular tree near the city, itali be'ilan shashmo zardata, if he's hanging from a tree that's called a zardata, ismicha lamasa, if it's near the city, afagav de lo mati lechaya, even though an animal can't reach the child, yesh bo mishum asufi, still it's considered status of asufi, that's a dangerous area. The Amar bar Psachim, that's what it says in Rav Psachim, zardata de smicha lamasa, lo pchisa mishten shede, again, that's an area where there are shedim, there are demons, it's a dangerous area, and therefore has the status of asufi. And the Gemara continues, Bei Knishta, if he's found in a synagogue, smichta lamasu shricha be'ravim, if it's near the city, there's a lot of people in that area, ein bo mishum asufi, it's not an issue of asufi, v'imla, but if not, yesh bo mishum asufi, then there's an issue of asufi. And Rashi explains, Bei Knishta bate knasiyas shalahem chutz le'irhav, those, the synagogues they had were outside of the city. V'lo shrichi baram, so if there's no one around, can go in orchim, you don't have a lot of gas, yesh l'daig v'mazikim, again, there's a concern for demons, that's considered to be a dangerous area. And the Gemara continues, Amar Amemar says, Haipira de Sufli, if let's say he's found in an area where they throw date pits, Yesh bo mishum asufi, is considered asufi. Charif de denara, if he's put in the river, in the area where the river flows, Ein bo mishum asufi, is not considered asufi. Pishri, if he's put along the sides of the river, Yesh bo mishum asufi, is considered asufi. Tzidei rishos harabim, if he's put on the sides of the rishos harabim, Ein bo mishum asufi, he's not considered asufi. Rishos harabim, if he's put in the actual rishos harabim, Yesh bo mishum asufi, is considered to be asufi. Amar Rav, and Rava says, Uveshnei ra'avon, in times of hunger, Ein bo mishum asufi, is not considered asufi. And the Gemara says, Had Rava Ahaya. What Rava is saying, what is he going on in terms of the Rishus Harabim that we just said above? Ilema Rishus Harabim. If you say we're talking about Rishus Harabim, we said in general, when he's placed in Rishus Harabim, is considered Asufi. So Aidi the Shnei Ra'avon. So now, since it's a time of famine, so Katlele, so therefore they're going to kill him in that situation. We'll see Rashi on that in a moment. V'alat Sidei Rishus Harabim. So then you'll say we're going on Sidei Rishus Harabim. But Sidei Rishus Harabim is always not Asufi. Ma'ir Yoshnei Ra'avon. What's the difference if it's the years of famine? Afila below Shnei Ra'avon. Even if it's not years of famine, we say it's not Asufi. And so the Gemara explains Rav as follows: Elakiyetmar de Rava Ahada Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rabbi Abba Amar Rabbi Yehuda Bar Zavdi Amar Rav. Rather, what Rav said, he was going on the statement of Rabbi Yehuda, who said that Rabbi Abba said, that Rabbi Yehuda Bar Zavdi said, that Rav said, made the following statement: Kozman Shebeshuk. The general rule by Asufi is, as long as the child is still in the marketplace, Ava V'imo Ne'monim Olav. His parents are believed, his father and his mother are believed to say that this is our child. But Nesaf Min Ashuk, if he's already been gathered in from the marketplace, Ein Ne'monim Olav. They're not believed that this is their child. And the Gemara says, my time, and what's the reason that we make this distinction? Amar Rava says, Hol v'yotza olav shem asufi, because once he's already been gathered in from the marketplace, he's called an asufi, it's too late. And it was on that Rava said, V'yomar Rav, and Rava said on that, Uv'shnei Ra'avon, that if it's years of famine, Afal Pi Shenasaf Min Ashuk, then even though he was already gathered in from the marketplace, Ava V'imo Ne'monim Olav, his father and his mother are believed, they're trusted to say that this is our child. And Rashi explains Pira de Sufle again. Let's say he's found in the area where they put the date pits. Nimsa b'chafira, it's an area that's dug like a cistern. Hoasuya lahatel sham garine tamarim l'maychel behemus. They throw in there the pits of dates to feed to animals. Yesh ba mishum asufi. The reason why it's asufi over there, to chutz l'ir avdile, because that's outside the city. Ushchichi bu'mazik, and there are demons over there. So again, it's an area of danger. Charifta de Nahar again means where the river flows. Nasnu ba'reva v'shlichusu la'emtsoyes hanar. The point is, they put him into a small kind of a boat in the middle of the river. Makam she'esfinos overos tam, in an area where the boats are always going. Ein ba mishum asufi is not considered asufi. The lakach tarcha lo licho ad charifos hanar sheyavru sfinos shav v'yimtzu. The whole point was she put him over there. They put him over there in order that the people in the ships should find the child and save the child. But Pishra, but if it's at the sides of the river, Makom Shipu Anarli, they have Shara Shlogim, Shein Derech Sfinas Lav Sham. This is the area of the river where it slants. This is due to the melting of the snow, so the ships don't go in that area, is the point. So Yesh Bo Mishum Asufi, so then it's considered Asufi. And then it said Ne'emonim Olav, so again we said that the parents are believed. This is talking about Lomar B'neinu, who they're believed to say that this is our child, B'shnei Ra'avon. So if it's years of famine, Shahar Bein Nishlachin, the point is, in years of famine, many of the children are going to be thrown aside. Lo Ratzu Chachamim Leposlam, the Chachamim there, they want to be lenient, they don't want to disqualify. Machmas Yitzias Kol, just because of the fact that the rumor went out that this is an Asufi, that's not a reason to be strict in this situation. And just to clarify, Rashi over here is saying that it makes sense to say that in times of famine we'll be lenient when the parents come forward, and say even after the child's been gathered in from the marketplace, still we're going to trust the parents. That would make sense to say B'shnei Ra'avon. Whereas it would not make sense to say that in a situation where the child was, let's say, thrown in Rishus Harabim, where we generally say he has the status of Asufe, just because it's Shnei Ra'avon, now he's not going to be Asufe. Just because it's Shnei Ra'avon, again, is not a reason why the parents would throw the child into Rishus Harabim where he's likely to be trampled. And that's why the Gemara said that leniency wouldn't have made sense in Rishus Harabim, and of course in Sidei Rishus Harabim we're lenient anyway, so there would be no point to make the comment over there as well. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Chisda says, Shloshen Ne'emonim La'alter, there are three cases where people are believed if they testify to something immediately. Elohein, and they are as follows: Asufe, that's the case of Asufi. We just said the parents, if they immediately say this is our child, and they testify the child is kosher, they're believed. Chaya, also a midwife, is believed if she testifies immediately. Upoteres Chavrosen, also by a nida. Let's say she's trying to exempt her companions and saying that she's a nida and they are not nidas, as we'll see in a moment. If she says it immediately, she is believed. Asufi ha-de'amr, Asufi is the case we just said above. The parents are believed if they immediately come forward and say this is our child, it's a kosher child. Chaya detanya, the case of a midwife, is the following brisa: Chaya ne'menes lomar zeyatza rishon v'zeyatza sheni. A midwife is believed to say this child came out first, and this child came out second. And the Brisa continues, Ba'med Devarim Amurim, when is this true? Shelo Yatzta V'chazra, that's if she didn't leave the room and come back. Aval Yatzta V'chazra, but if she left and then she came back, meaning she's not testifying immediately, Eino Ne'emenes, she's not believed. Rabbi Eliezer says, Huchzuk Alomd, if she's in the same place she was, she hasn't moved at all, Ne'emenes, then she's believed, Vimla, but if she's moved, Eino Ne'emenes, she's not believed. Now that sounds very similar. So the Gemara says, My Beinayu, what's the difference between the Tanakam and Rabbi Eliezer? Ika Beinayu, Da'ahader Appa. The difference is, let's say she just turned around. According to Rabbi Eliezer, she's not in the exact same place, so she's not believed. According to the Tanakama, she remained in the room, so she is believed. Poteres Chavroseh Mai, what's the case where one woman exempts her companions? The Tanan, that's from the following Mishnah, Shalosh Nashim Shayishenis B'mita Achas. Let's say 3 women are sleeping in one bed, V'nimtza Dam Tachas Achas Mehen, and there's blood found beneath one of them. Kulan Tameos, they're all considered Tameh. Bodka Achas Mehen, now if one of them checks herself, V'nimtzas Tameya, and she finds out that she's impure, she finds out that she's menstruating, He Tameya V'kulan Toros, so then she actually is considered a Nida, and the other ones are Tahoros. That's the idea, she exempts them, but it's only by immediate testimony. Amr of Chisda says, Shebodka Atzma Kashir Ves, she has to check herself within the amount of time for the onset of becoming a Nida. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Ne'menes Chaya Lomar, Ze Kohen, V'ze Levi, Ze Nesin, V'ze Mamzer. The midwife is believed to say, this one is the Kohen, and this child is the Levi, and this is the Nesin, and this is the Mamzer. She can testify in terms of who's the mother of each child. Ba'med Devarim Amurim, and when is this true? Shelo Kara La Shemir, if nobody's protesting. Aval Kara La Ira, but if somebody's protesting Eina Ne'menes, then the midwife is not believed. And the Gemara clarifies, Ira Demai, what does it mean a protest? If you're going to say that there's just one person protesting, but didn't Rabbi Yochanan say, Ein Ira Pachas Mishnayim, it's not considered a protest unless if it's less than 2 people, it has to be at least 2. Elo Ira Trey, so the Gemara says, you're right, it has to be that there's at least 2 people who are protesting. Vibai Seiman, the Gemara says, if you want, I could say, Leola Meimulach Ira Chad, I could really say to you that it's just the protest of one person. V'chiyam Rabbi Yochanan Ein Ira Pachas Mishnayim, when did Rabbi Yochanan say that it's not called Ira if it's less than 2 people? Hanimili Heichad the Isa Chazaka the Kashrus. That's in a situation where you have some kind of presumption that the child is kosher. Aval Heichad the Leka Chazaka the Kashrus, but here the child was just born. There is no presumption at all. So Chad Nami Mehemin, so one would also be believed. And the Gemara continues along the same lines. Nemon bal mekach lomar lazem acharti v'lazein macharti. A person, let's say, who sold something is believed to say, I sold it to this individual, I didn't sell it to that individual. Ba'med devarim amurmin, when is this true? Bisman shemecho biyado, if the item that's being sold is still in his hand. Avalein mecho biyado, but if it's not in his hand, eino nemon, he's not going to be believed. And Rashi explains, Shemecho biyadu deramya le'lemedak shelo la'achzer lo mizeh, or la'achzer lo dama v'yiten hamekach l'misha lo nimkar lo, tekim le b'misha para hilkach medak dayik. In such a situation, if the seller is still holding the item, so in such a situation he has to be careful and make sure he knows exactly who he's supposed to give it to. Aval bizman shein mecho biyadu, but let's say he's not holding it. U'shneim ochsen bo, and they're both holding it. The purchasers are arguing over it. Eino nemon, he's not believed. Tekim delava le'ramya, because at this point in time, it's not his responsibility anymore to follow through with the sale. Sulo dayak lizkor lemiu, he's not being careful anymore to remember exactly who he sold it to. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Dalid Amud Aleph.